Hallo allemaal, welkom terug bij een nieuwe video. Wat doe je vandaag? Wat doe je morgen? Are you ready for the future? Because today we're talking about the future tense. I'm going to talk about a few different ways to talk about the future in Dutch. The first is the simplest. You just do what I did in the intro. Wat doe je morgen? Doe is the simple present form of the verb doen. And the answer to the question wat doe je morgen can be just as simple. Ik werk morgen. I'm working tomorrow. Or ik ga morgen naar mijn broertje. I'm going to my brother's tomorrow. All you need is a verb in the simple present and a word that indicates that you're talking about the future. And speaking of those, let's have a look at a list of time words that refer to the future. Morgen. Overmorgen. Vrijdag. Volgende week. Volgende week vrijdag. Volgende maand. In april. In de zomer. In de vakantie. Straks. Later. Zometeen. In 2033. There are, of course, many words that can make it clear that you're referring to the future. But you can also make the sentence a bit more complicated by adding a modal verb. Wat moet je morgen doen? Ik moet morgen werken. I have to work tomorrow. The second verb, werken, is in the infinitive at the end of the sentence. Wat doet hij morgen? Hij wil morgen zwemmen. He wants to swim tomorrow. Wat doen jullie volgende week? We kunnen niet afspreken, want we gaan op vakantie. We can't meet up because we're going on holiday. The second way to talk about the future is by adding a verb that is often in the list of modal verbs in most Dutch textbooks, which is gaan. Which for a lot of people will make sense because it's like in English, I am going to. Except that in Dutch, you don't need the be verb and you don't need to. You only need gaan. De student gaat morgen huiswerk maken. De docenten gaan vanmiddag vergaderen. Ga je straks beginnen? Nee, ik ga vanavond beginnen. You've probably come across this when you were doing the modal verbs. Remember to use the correct form of gaan with the main verb in the infinitive at the end of the sentence. Ik ga sporten. Je gaat eten. Ga je eten? Hij gaat fietsen. Ze gaat slapen. Het gaat regenen. We gaan feest vieren. Jullie gaan surfen. Ze gaan schoonmaken. As you may have noticed, we use gaan also for the weather. So when we predict the weather, we will say het gaat een beetje sneeuwen. It's going to snow a bit. Het gaat hard waaien. There's going to be a lot of wind. This sounds a bit weird though because in Dutch we have a verb for the wind blowing. So it's not like in English where blow has a lot of different meanings. In Dutch, waaien only is about the wind blowing. So you don't even need to add the word wind to the sentence because when you say het gaat waaien, people understand you're talking about the wind. But remember, het regent vanavond, het sneeuwt morgen, het waait overmorgen are all fine as well. You can use the simple present tense, it doesn't really matter for meaning, but for clarity, please do add a time word that shows that you're talking about the future. And now we have arrived at the A2, maybe even B1 part of the lesson. This is where we use the word zullen. The verb zullen. It's a modal verb, meaning usually it means shall and is often used for suggestions. When you suggest something, this is always about the future. In a lot of cases, we can use zullen to mean will. Let's have a look at a few examples. Zal ik je helpen? Shall I help you? Zullen we naar het park gaan? Shall we go to the park? Here, the meaning is still shall. We are suggesting something. And remember, don't use zullen when you react. Don't say, ja, we zullen naar het park gaan. Yes, we shall go to the park. No, ja, dat is goed. Leuk idee. Or, sorry, ik heb geen tijd. We also use zullen as a modal verb when we talk about the future of hebben en zijn. We don't use gaan. We don't say, ik ga morgen later thuis zijn. We use zullen. Ik zal morgen later thuis zijn. I will be home later tomorrow. Hoe laat zul je daar zijn? Ik zal daar om 6 uur zijn. I will be there at 6. Or, ze gaan volgende week hun boeken hebben. Nee, ze zullen volgende week hun boeken hebben. Zul je morgen veel tijd hebben? Ja, ik zal veel tijd hebben. Nee, ik zal morgen niet veel tijd hebben. We also use zullen for a specific time or date. De boot zal zondag varen. The boat will sail on Sunday. We can also use zullen for continuous situations in the future. This is the last way we can talk about the future that I will talk about today. When the verb is passive, we say, for example, ik zal dan in Duitsland wonen. I will be living in Germany then. Ze zal op dat moment in het ziekenhuis liggen. She will be in hospital at that moment. So here, the main verbs are not hebben and zijn, but they are passive verbs that take place in the future, and we can still use zullen. When the verbs are active, we can also use zullen, but we have to add something extra. And I talked about this before in the video about the present tense. How do you say you're doing something? Ik ben aan het studeren. I am studying. If there's a situation in the future that is continuous, we can also use this with active verbs. Ik zal aan het studeren zijn. So, ik ben aan het studeren. The ben part will go in the end in the infinitive. Ik zal aan het studeren zijn. Ze is aan het studeren. Ze zal op dat moment aan het studeren zijn. So the structure here is subject, zullen, the time, aan het infinitive zijn. Hij zal volgende week aan het trainen zijn. He will be training next week. Please keep in mind that for all these examples, except for the suggestions, you can also just use the simple present without any difference in meaning. Ik zal morgen later thuis zijn. You can also say as ik ben morgen later thuis. Same thing. De trein zal om 9:30 vertrekken. De trein vertrekt om 9:30. Hij zal volgende week aan het trainen zijn. Hij traint volgende week. And as I said, this doesn't work for suggestions, so zal ik je helpen doesn't work as help ik je, because now you're asking if you're helping somebody, because in this case, the meaning changes. You're not just talking about the future, you're also adding the extra element of suggestion, which is lost if you leave zullen away. I hope this was clear enough. If not, please write your question in the comment section below. If you like, please also check out the podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. And in any case, I will be back here for a new video next week. So see you then.